Hello, Psychology 30 students. My name is Greg Schwaga, and I'm coming to you from Vanguard Community School. So I will teach this block of psychology this year. So there's a few things that I would like to go through with you that'll make your transition into taking this course a little bit easier. And the first thing is of course, you're going to be accessing this course from Moodle, which is the screen that you're going to be looking at. It might be slightly different because you'll have a student look to the screen, whereas I'm the creator of the course, so my course looks a little bit differently. But as in all cyber school courses, you can take a look at the course outline, the checklist, the grades, teacher contact info if you need to contact me, and the assessment policy of Chinook Cyber School as well. So on the main page, you'll have my introduction, Psychology 30. You'll have my Twitter updates here as well. Sometimes I'll put some stuff for psychology like I have here for you as well. A couple of things to know: there's a few quizzes here, and I use a program called ClassMarker for that, and I password protect my quizzes, and all of the quizzes will have the password Chinook with a capital C for this block. All right, so Unit 1 in Developmental Psychology, you can see there's there's three sections. What is developmental psychology, domains and perspectives on human development, and how do we make sense of our behavior or doing research. So I park all of my assignments and my materials and everything in Moodle. However, I rely on Google quite heavily in order to be able to create assignments, collaborate on work, and for you to be able to do assignments as well. And I'll show you what I mean. There's a few things that are I guess important here to know. So when it says what is developmental psychology, you're going to click here for a presentation on developmental psychology, and it's actually going to go to a Google slide presentation. And within the slide presentation, there's information, there's embedded documents, and there are embedded videos for you to be able to go through as well. So, for instance, one thing that's probably key for you when you're working in Google is you are able to make copies of everything that I put on here. So, quite often, if you wanted to take this, let's say if you wanted to take this presentation, you can go File, make a copy, and it'll make a copy to your Google Drive, and then you can edit it and highlight it and so on. And I think that's really important for you to be able to do, so that you can make this your own and help you be able to study from it and so on. For those of you, and I think probably you all are familiar with Google or Google Drive or using Google Documents and so on. If you're not, when you're in Google Chrome, obviously you're going to be able to go to your Google Drive. Okay, you'll have a little picture here. You'll have this section up here, and that allows you to get everything associated with your Google account, including your Gmail, Google Classroom if you're using that, and so on. This is the symbol for Drive, and it'll take you into your Google Drive. And you can see right now that I'm building the psychology course, and I have the first 2 units done. But all of the material is in my Google Drive. So what I would do is I would also make folders in here so that you can separate units 1 for 2 and so on. So I'll just show you. I haven't done that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go New and then Folder. And let's say, just for simplicity, I'm going to go Unit 1 in Psychology. And then I'm able to put all of my stuff from Unit 1 in there just simply by dragging. The other thing you can do is, let's see here, this is Unit 1. I can go right click and I can go Move To, and Psychology 30, and it'll do that as well. And then I'm able to put all of my stuff into one. So if you want to make copies of everything that I've done, that would help as well. You probably heard the telephone ringing. It was actually Google calling me, interestingly enough, or at least some scam involving Google's name anyways. So anyways, that's how I would actually go through and do sort of be able to organize your Google account. All right, so what I would like to do as well is for you to be able to go through this developmental psychology slide. So I'm just going to go through a little bit. I'm going to explain it as well, and then you can go through it as many times as you need to be able to understand the information here. So psychology starts off with this idea of what is developmental psychology. So basically what we're looking at, it's a field of study that examines the patterns of growth, change, and stability that occur throughout the entire human lifespan. So when we're looking at developmental psychology, we're really looking at a human being at the end of it and what's gone on through all of the stages of life to be able to contribute to the way that person is at their present time. Okay, so that's what this says. Developmentalists is really developmental psychologists, and they're making an assumption here that development continues throughout through every person's life. So beginning at conception and continuing until death. All right, developmental psychologists assume that we continue to grow and we change right to the end of our lives, whereas in other respects the behavior remains stable. So at the same time, developmental psychologists will say that no particular period governs all of development. So these periods of development are like conception, prenatal, infancy, childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. And what they're saying is that no particular one governs all of development. So we don't all develop in our childhood, or we don't all develop in our adulthood. Who we are today and who we are when we die will be a combination of periods of development right from conception, is what they're saying. Okay, so the lifespan approach to human development, basically we're looking at 7 basic characteristics. So development, and that's human development, is lifelong. Okay, that makes sense, from conception till death. It's multidimensional. So it consists of biological, cognitive, socio-emotional, and spiritual dimensions. Okay, so biological would be that process of how our body works and how our mind works in terms of the pure science and biology behind it. The cognitive side would be our thinking part. So cognitive basically means thinking. Socio-emotional would be the environment that surrounds us and how that contributes to our development. And then also spiritual. So spiritual, obviously consisting of that side of us that is looking to anything that's more than what we are as just human beings. So that greater sense of purpose in terms of spirituality. All right. Lifespan approach also is multi-directional. So some aspects of development increase while others decrease. So what they're saying here is that some aspects of our biological development may occur at a faster rate at times than our cognitive development, and so on. Okay, plastic. Depending on the individual's life conditions, development may take many paths. So what they're saying here, the lifespan approach to human development, plastic in this case is not the substance plastic, but plastic means that it is able to move, it's bendable, it takes different paths. That's what the plastic here means. Okay, it's historically embedded, so historical conditions lead to who we are. Multidisciplinary, so psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, all of these different areas study human development and share a concern for unlocking mysteries of development. And it's contextual, so that means context, that means the situation that you're in. And that continually evolves, it continually changes, and that acts on a person's biological makeup, their physical environment, social, and so on. All right, so key issues in developmental psychology: continuous change versus discontinuous change. So this is important to understand. In continuous change, we see development as gradual, building on one another. Each stage is a little bit different, but it builds upon the one before it, and so on. Okay, so continuous change versus discontinuous change. Discontinuous change would be more like contrast in distinct stages or steps, not really building on one another, but different from the earlier stages. A critical period is a specific time during development when a particular event has its greatest consequences. So there's some critical periods in our life, and I want you to think back right now. You obviously haven't lived as long as I have, but even in your lifespan, if you think about it, there are certain highlights. There are certain moments in your life that maybe have greater significance than others, and that would be considered a critical period. It's probably influenced your development more than some other time in your life. Okay, lifespan approach versus a focus on a particular period. And I've been describing that a little bit in that developmentalists believe that the entire lifespan is important, more than just one particular period. It's the entire it's all of those periods combined. Nature versus nurture. So we're talking about this as well. How much is our makeup, who we are? How much is it is what we are born with in terms of the biology, the genetic makeup, and so on? And how much of who we are right now is based on the environment? And that's basically what nature versus nurture is. So nature encompasses any factor that is produced by the predetermined unfolding in genetic information, a process known as maturation. So genetic inherited influences are at work. And it says we move from the one-celled organism that is created at the moment of conception to billions of cells. And now those cells are influenced by our genetic makeup. They obviously have a factor or play a role in who we are. Some of the influences are biological, the impact of the pregnant mother's substance abuse is an example, and so on. There are other environmental issues, more social issues, such as the way parents discipline their children and the effects of peer pressure on adolescents. Okay, so that's nature versus nurture. Always a question in terms of our development. Who are we today? Are we a product of both our genetic makeup and our environment and the environmental influences? Does one have more impact than the other, and so on? Moving on, there's a couple of videos that I thought I would try and find for you. They're easy to find on YouTube or so on. So I go through a few videos and I try to find the ones that align with this course the most. And there's some issues in developmental psychology. And then there's one here that actually explains nature versus nurture. And I would like you to make sure that you watch these videos. Maybe tempting just to skip through all of these presentations and so on and just jump to the quizzes and the assignments. But then the quizzes and the assignments aren't going to make that much sense to you, and you're really not going to understand the course that well. Next we have, I have a couple quizzes for you. I believe they're only like 5-mark quizzes. They should be pretty easy. Again, they're done using class marker. So at the end, they're multiple choice quizzes. You should get to see the answers at the end. So you should get some instant feedback, and you're going to need a password, and the password is Chinook in this case. Okay, then a larger assignment on 1.1, and this is an autobiography, and I'm just going to go through this as well. Now, this is where you can click in and you just click on it, and it immediately takes you to a Google document. So notice I say make a copy, and this will create an assignment in your Google Drive. You'll get this, and you'll be able to edit this if you need in your Google Drive. And for this assignment, I would like you to, at least 2 paragraphs, introduce yourself to me from birth until now. So for most of you, that's from birth until you're like 17 years old kind of thing. So since you've just finished reading the notes, What is Developmental Psychology, please make sure you include some comments about continuous versus discontinuous change. This is where the assignment meets the learning material. So do you remember behaviors that you used to have and have changed. Okay, so if you don't know what that means, or if you don't know what I'm talking about there, go back to the slide presentation and look at continuous versus discontinuous change. A critical period, so include something about a critical period of time that had a significant impact on your life. Again, if that's not making sense to you, go back to the slide presentation. And then, of course, lifespan from birth until now. Please state and explain an example in your life that displays nature versus nurture, that genetic makeup versus how your environment has influenced you. Okay, 2 paragraphs. Now, I'm making a bit of an assumption here that you're taking a grade 12 course and that your paragraph writing and the grammar that you use and so on is actually pretty good for a grade 12 class. So just so that you know, this is what I'm going to be marking this assignment on. So paragraph format is used, paragraphs are structured correctly, paragraphs are written using and incorporating developmental psychology terminology, spelling and grammar is correct, writing conventions, so title page, double spacing, and so on, and examples are used to support your writing. So all of this stuff is something that I would consider to be good writing at a grade 12 level, and that I would expect you to do if you're going to hit the 7 to 10 high quality range. Now, how to submit assignments after. So you're working along, you're probably using Google Documents. If you don't, that's okay. Microsoft Word's fine. Google Documents is really easy. You can hit share right here once you're done this assignment. And then within here, you have some choices. You can either give people editing rights, you can allow people to comment on your work, or just simply view. So either one is probably fine for submitting, but you just have to hit copy link. Here's where I would prefer you to submit this link rather than just sharing with me, because if you share with me, there's no record of you having submitted the assignment. So copy your link, and then when you go back to Moodle, when you go back to your course, and then you can submit your assignment. Under assignment A, and that's assignment A. So you can then just submit it, and you can submit that link, and then I will have them. Other than that, there's nothing else. What I would for 1.1, there's one last little survey that I would like you to take, and it's go to menti.com, use the code 166153. You can see I have 11 people here already that have done this little survey, and I'd like to get your idea and your feedback on a couple of things here, like what you think of psychology. So again, www.menti.com, use the code 166153.